Good morning. My name is Karen Kong, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Ottawa, Canada. And welcome to my Rolling Waves Crafting to Go series for the month of March. So if you have joined me before, you'll know that this year I am doing something a little bit different. I normally have a This or That Thursday, that was last year, where I would make two cards and you would choose which one for me to make live on Thursdays. But this year I am doing a Crafting to Go series. So if you make a qualifying order with me before this series starts, you'll get at the end of the month the 4 cards that I made for the month with that bundle in a kit, and all the pieces pre-cut for you and ready to go, and you can use the videos that I create this month to make your cards. So this month is the Rolling Waves card. The bundle just launched, I believe. It's an online exclusive. Let me show you the front. That's the stamps, and then it comes with a set of dies as well, and I really love them. Good morning, Tara. Thanks for joining. And this is the card we're making. So I thought that I would be always making cards from the top down perspective, just the way that they have created and designed the artwork. But I think in this card I've achieved more of a looking out towards the horizon kind of perspective. And I've got my little umbrellas, and I did something different. I created it so that you could open the umbrellas and see a little message inside. So it says happy birthday inside. So I thought that was cute, and I'll show you how to make these cards this morning. So I'm just gonna get my computer set up so I can see our conversation and your comments while we're crafting. Feel free to jump in and say hi and ask questions. Tell me where you're watching from, and just keep me company, because I'm really bad at talking to myself, right? Let me just get going here. All right, it looks like I've got my computer up and running. Let me switch my my camera over to the desktop so you can see what we're making. So just close your eyes. I have to remount my camera. So if you get the kit from me, most of your supplies will be pre-cut, pre-die cut for you, and you can create with them and follow along with the videos and make your cards. So I have pre-cut a bunch of this stuff, and let's talk about how we're going to make this card. Okay, I will, because I already pre-cut, to save us some time, I will discuss right now how I actually made this card so that you understand if you wanted to recreate it all on your own. Okay, good morning, Sandra. Okay, so let's just talk about the color palette. I chose to use some retired colors. This is Tahitian Tide, the cardstock, and then I thought I would pair it with Pacific Point, which is a color that I think it retired like the year after I started, and so I didn't get much use out of this ink pad. I don't have any of the cardstock. But Pacific Point is the blue in the water, okay? So, and even if I had the cardstock, I think that I would rather blend it on because it gives it a variation in the blues. Good morning, Janice. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so I blended. Okay, so I brought my blending brushes just to show you. So all I did was I took a bunch of cardstock, white cardstock, and I just blended on with Pacific Point. And then I cut out my pieces. So if you've watched my videos before, you'll know that I always put the measurements in my video description afterwards, so don't worry about writing it down. But this is about 1 inch to 5.5 inches wide here, or 5 1/4. Let me just double check that. 5 1/4, okay? So the dies for the waves are actually only 5 1/4 inches wide. Okay, so it doesn't, if you wanted to make a card that went all the way to 5.5 inches, you would have to know that this die does not reach end to end on a 5.5 inch card. Okay, so I made it 5 1/4, and it just makes it to the side. Okay, so I blended the Pacific Point onto white cardstock. I cut out a section that I needed for this part of my water, which gives me kind of like a horizon look, right? So off into the horizon, and it's flat because in my card it's a calm day. And then because there's no sun in this this set, okay, there's no sun, and I didn't feel like I wanted to add an actual die cut sun. It didn't seem to fit with this, so all I did was I took Daffodil Delight and I blended it on. So I just blended like a darker section of yellow, just kind of to indicate that, you know, the sun is coming from here, and then I just added yellow all the way across. Okay, so we'll do that live today when I make the card, but I just blended it on. And what else? I'm gonna say that typically in the cards that I have seen, let me show you the dies. So this is your base for the waves that you create. Okay, people, the next layer, sorry, the next layer that goes on top is here. Okay, and I've seen people use a lighter shade of blue or a variation of the color to place on top, and then this is typically white, and they will layer this as the froth. Okay, for my card I didn't want so many layers. I decided I would make this second layer here my froth. Okay, so I die cut in white, and I die cut this section out of the blended blue Pacific Point cardstock that I had created. Okay, another thing to note is that because I had a short horizon, right, I only had this much room to work with, and if you take a look at the base, let me just bring it back here. If I had kept the whole thing, it would have gone beyond my horizon, right? I wanted that space, so what I did is when I die cut this piece out, I actually took it and I trimmed off a whole bunch of it. So I just kind of chose sections to kind of trim off here, and I got a shorter piece of waves. Okay, so that's what I did there. But if you're getting the kit from me, I will pre-cut all that and I'll trim it down for you, and you can just assemble. Okay, the last technical thing I wanted to talk about is the creation of my umbrellas. So this is a trick that lots of people have used for other shapes. You can do it for a lot of shapes that you have a die for. But the umbrella is, let me bring in the die. This is your umbrella, the base for your umbrella. Okay, so you're gonna, sorry, here's the other die, which cuts out the little stripes on your umbrella top. Okay, and you glue on these pieces on top of here. Okay, so you can get a flat piece, which is what it was intended for, or you can create these little like clamshells simply by folding over a piece of paper. So I cut a piece of paper like this. Okay, I scored it halfway. Okay, and when I go to die cut it, I positioned it so that the very top edge of this die kind of peeks over the folded portion, right? So it won't cut it. If you see that, can you see this? Let me just see. So I would position it like this. So you can see that the top edge of this one side does not cut the paper. It's not going to cut the paper, which will leave you with this fold here, and leave the two sides joined. Okay, so that's basically what I did. And that's how you end up with this, okay? And then I die cut these in Tahitian Tide and Daffodil Delight, sorry. And I mixed and matched. So I think that pretty much covers like how I created a bunch of these pieces. But I do have them prepped and ready to go so that we can make the card this morning quicker. And of course I took one last component here. This guy is from the Friendly Seagulls, which was a celebration stamp set, and I thought he would be fun just sticking out the side there. But you can do with whatever you want. If you don't have that stamp set when you get this kit, you don't have to add him, but I just thought he was just a fun addition. Okay, so that's an explanation of how I created a bunch of these pieces. I think we'll go ahead and start assembling. I'm just going to think, all right, So just so I don't lose these guys, and they're really easy to assemble, I'm going to glue these ones on here first. And when I go to cut these for my kits, I am going to remember to cut these using the adhesive sheets so that you can just peel off the stickers and stick them on. But today I did not do that. I have to glue them on, that's fine. I have no problems with gluing, and I'm going to mix and match the second largest stripe on this umbrella. So just so I don't forget, I'm going to switch them now because, you know, I don't want to get so excited with my gluing that I forget to do that. I had originally chosen 3 colors for this, but then I decided that it was too busy, and I liked having just the color palette of just mainly the 3 colors: the Daffodil Delight, the Tahitian Tide, the Pacific Point. And I decided to stick with those. Okay, so it's really easy to assemble. You just gotta put glue on the backs of all these and just line up the impressions of all the lines in each vertice, I guess, with the umbrella. Easy peasy. Okay, so let's get started, and I have my tweezers handy nearby. So I'm just going to put some glue along each of these, and hopefully not too much because we don't want it squeezing out between the layers. So it is feeling like spring here in Ottawa, and the temperatures are like coming up finally. We had one last deep freeze kind of day on Sunday, but the rest of this week is looking very mild. We have temperatures above 0, which is amazing. So nice to have some milder weather. Okay. Of course, the coming of spring for me always means the start of allergy season. So I think I may have to start making sure I take medication regularly soon, or I'm going to be sneezing a lot on our lives. Still lots of snow on the ground, but it is getting better. Did anybody get away for a hot and sunny vacation? Because this is what this rolling wave set is making me think about. I didn't get away for, well, I went away hot and sunny, somewhere hot and sunny last August, but nothing during the winter. Okay, so that's 2 out of the 3. I've got one more, and then the very last one, the centerpiece of the umbrella, is actually popped up on a dimensional because I was thinking that a lot of umbrellas, patio umbrellas, beach umbrellas, they have like a venting section at the top, like a part where it opens up, the top section opens up to let out the wind, I guess, when the wind gets underneath the umbrella. So I decided to mimic that by putting it on a dimensional. So I'm just going to get my big dimensionals. One of the large ones fits on there easily. And I think it looks really cute. There we go. So there is one umbrella done. You can see the little center section popped up there. All right, let's get the other one glued on, and then I won't be able to lose any of these pieces. Does anybody have any questions about any of the other pieces that I created? feel free to ask in the chat right now, and we can talk some more about it. I wished I could stamp like right inside these umbrellas, and I tried doing it with like one of my trial pieces, and it just doesn't look quite right because of all the lines here that the dye puts into the paper. I didn't like how it looked, so I ended up stamping it on a separate sheet of white and then fussy cutting my words. Yes, everybody's quiet today. Ask me questions, talk to me. Did I do that good of a job talking about how I created all those other pieces? Nobody has questions about it? Sandra's asking you, did you figure out what the other die was for that came with the set? The other one where it's just, oh yes, you know what? I did. That, I forgot to explain that. So look, if you take a look at the edge of my beach here, right? I used this edge die to cut this out. So when I assemble this together, this can fit nicely right in. Okay, so this will sit right inside because I cut the bottom of the other piece of paper so that it would fit right in here. I could have done the same thing with this, like the ocean piece in the background, but then I realized that if I didn't have the alignment correct, like if I had it slightly askew or something, this piece would not sit straight in my on my card. It might end up something like slightly like this, and that would drive me crazy because then I wouldn't be able to stamp this across and have it look straight. So I decided I would just leave it the way it was. I just created a strip here, and I will just line it right up with the top here of my beach, and we'll cover it up with the wave. Okay, so I did figure it out. Okay, so that's what that's for, but you don't have to. I mean, if I didn't do that, then I would just simply have my wave sitting on top of it, but it creates a bunch of layers that may not sit flat. So it's up to you. You have to play with it and see how it looks out at the end. The other thing I thought it would be good for, and I'm going to play with this maybe in another card, is to have the edge of your card made into a wave, and that's something I'm saving for another card. We'll try it out, but I think that would also be a great way to like do something different with the bottom edge of your card rather than just having it straight across. So that's what this piece is for. I think that's what your question is about, right, Sandra? Yeah. Okay, so let's finish this umbrella here. Thanks for asking that question. I had forgotten we had talked about that and hadn't quite figured it out. But it's easier once you have like all the dies and you've cut them out and you can play with them. You can see where they fit in together and how they work together. Okay. There we go. Okay, I'm going to grab one more dimensional and we'll put that on top of this yellow. And then the umbrellas will be ready to go. All right, so there's my umbrellas. I think they're super cute. Let's put those aside, and I'm going to assemble my waves now. Okay, so this is going to sit right on top. Okay, so this was the largest one. This is the second largest one. I made it into the froth, cutting it into white cardstock. Okay, so let's put some glue on the back. And again, you know, if you use the adhesive sheets, this will probably make it easier. But at the same time, I always fear that when I have an adhesive sheet and it's a complicated piece that has a lot of edges to line up, that if I accidentally touch it down in the wrong spot, that it's going to be stuck there and I won't be able to adjust it. Whereas with glue, it's more work to put on little dots of glue all over the place, but it gives me the flexibility to just nudge the die cuts together into the right alignment after I put it down, or as I'm putting it down. And that way you can get them perfectly lined up together and they look good. That said, they are waves, so, you know, they don't have to be perfect. I mean, like, there's a lot of variation in where the froth might go and where the wave might go, so you can just call it artistic license. I think that's the right word. So yeah, I'm glad that I was able to figure out that I could get a different perspective with this set, because I didn't want to just do a top-down perspective. But I think we can do more. I have a layout suggested by Sandra that I am going to work on for another card where we will combine the perspectives because it's a fun fold. But that'll be for another day. Okay, I think I've got enough glue there. This is where tweezers come in super handy. Okay, so I'm going to start from one side and line up the side, and then from there should be pretty easy. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So, okay, so now I've got my wave. I think what I'm going to do next is I am going to blend on that yellow. Okay, let's move this out of the way. I'm going to get a scrap piece of paper. And this is my mat. I'm going to do something a little bit different with the back. Nothing drastic. I decided if you're wondering what this Daffodil Delight is for, I'm going to make it a mat for this piece and see how that looks for this card, okay? Later. Okay, so let's get the Daffodil Delight. And I'm going to add the sun here by making it stronger in the blending in that one corner. Okay, so I'm going to ink up my brush, and I'm just tapping off to make sure I don't get any blobs of white when I first start blending. And I like to start off a little bit and then lightly blend on. So it doesn't matter how far down you go, because a lot of it's going to be covered by your waves and your water here, right? So I'm going to concentrate my blending in the corner, and then I'm just going to blend outward here just to add a little bit of warmth out there so it's not so stark white. Okay, I think I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. How does that look? I think that's probably good. Okay, so there's my sun, and I'm going to stamp sentiment wishing you a beautiful day in Pacific Point. And that sentiment is actually from another beach set. It is from the Beach Day set. I love this set too. I like the script in this set especially. So let's pull that out. So for those long pieces that wiggle and like this, I like to put them down on the paper or on my desktop so that they are straight, and then I'll pick them up with my block, okay? Instead of trying to directly apply it to the block, because I inevitably will make it crooked or something like that. And if you have trouble with that, just lay it down on your table, just pick it up with a block, and it will be straight. Yeah, Sandra, I actually pulled out all my beach-related stamp sets and bundles to make this card, and I wanted to see how I could combine them. So there'll be more of that. I am combining like all sorts of things. So I'm just going to pull this away, this scrap piece of paper, so I can use my grid to kind of help me visually line up where my piece is going to go. So it's going to be fairly close to the top. I think the first time I made this, I might have done it after I put the horizon on. I'm going to trust that it's going to be in the similar place this time, and we'll pre-stamp it. Okay. I'm just going to clean this off. And we'll set it aside. All right. Now here's my beach scene. I did the, I assembled first and then I added my, my stamping afterwards, so I could see sort of where my, my pieces would be, my umbrellas and stuff. So let's assemble first, okay? So this is the mat. I have a white mat that I'm assembling. I'm not doing it straight onto the cardstock, or the card base. So let's assemble, okay? So this goes right up against the bottom edge, okay? So we're gonna go like this. I'm just gonna double check that I didn't make it too high. And yes, good thing I did. Okay, so that's gonna be too high. So I need to cut this down. I'm just gonna double check with my ruler how high approximately I need this to be. Probably 2 1/4 inches from this top edge. So this is 2 1/2. So I'm going to cut off a 1/4 inch off the bottom. So I'm using the right side of the ruler here. Okay. Now let's just check again. So this is going to be right at the bottom, and then this is going to be right up against it. Okay, that looks better. All right, that's much better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. Thanks, Janice. Yeah, I mean, work with whatever you have. This is why, you know, I always pull out my retired stuff and see how I can work with both of them and all of the other pieces that didn't get enough love. I have Seaside Bay too, and I'm wondering how I can work with that as well, because that also has lots of shells and the birds that I don't know what kinds of birds those are, but the ones that run along the beach. So yeah, those would be good sets to work with too. I'm always pulling out retired stuff and using it, because I know that all of us are just hoarding this stuff and we need to use it. Okay. I know I'm very picky about where I put my glue, because I don't like to have it everywhere. And then plus if I put it in the middle, I wouldn't be able to hold it like this. Just realized that. So I usually don't like to have a lot of glue on my paper. I just find that if I end up with a lot of glue on mine, I end up with paper that wrinkles when it dries, and I want it to lie flat when it's dried. Okay. And then we will put this is our water. It will be right there. So I'm just lining it up so that it touches the edges, okay? And then the wave will cover the rest of that. Sandpipers, yes, thank you very much, Sandra. Those are those birds that run along the beach. And again, I'm working a lot with glue especially when I have to line things up, because it gives me that extra few seconds to nudge things into place if I didn't put them down in the right spot. Right, like this, I can still nudge it down a couple extra millimeters so I can cover that gap. And I'm going to push it over just a little bit so it lines up better on the sides. And that looks good. Just eyeballing and using my grid to make sure it looks straight. And that looks straight. Okay. All right. So now you'll see my wave fits into this groove that I've created along my beach front, right? And like I said, I didn't actually have to do that. If I left it straight, actually, it would have been fine, actually. It would have just sat on top. And I just realized that you could save yourself that extra step and not have it be restricted into this spot. You could just lay it here, or you could even tilt it if you wanted to and trim off the excess so it could be on an angle. So, don't feel like you have to create that edge there. It was just me playing around, and I've realized that now you could get away with that without doing that. You could just make 2 straight edges here, and then you can position this wave anywhere along it. Okay, so because I have a bit of a dip here, I'm going to put glue dots in here to raise up the paper a little bit so that it lies more flat. My original card I just glued down, so you probably can't even notice. And it doesn't make too much of a difference, but just I'm just going to go ahead and do that anyways. Oops, I'm just trying to figure out where that dot is. Yeah, you know what? I'm thinking it probably would be better to leave this uncut here. And then you won't have any difference in the level of cardstock, and then you wouldn't have to worry about matching the curves, so it'd probably be better without it. But, that's what comes out of playing with it, right? I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how this card was going to actually turn out in the end, so I was just playing with it and just talking it through to myself. I realized we don't need it. Okay. And I'm going to put some glue on the back of the top section here so that it sticks to the rest of the water. So let's get the glue out again. Okay, so just the top section here needs some glue. I'm just putting little dots, and hopefully they won't squish out too much because they are fairly small sections, very thin, but I think that they need a little bit of glue to hold them down so that they won't lift when they when the recipient takes it in and out of the envelope. Okay. If I get too big of a blob, I tend to just kind of smooth it out with the tip of the glue bottle, so that hopefully it won't squish out. Especially the little tiny ends here. Okay, I think that's probably good. I'll put a little bit more here. Okay, so when I make these kits, guys, and just note that I'm not going to cut that edge there. It will make everybody's life easier, because then you wouldn't have to fit it into the groove here. There we go. Okay. All right, so we're going to bring back those little umbrellas. Okay, and I'm putting the blue in here because I don't want it to kind of fade into the water. I find that it just stands out more if I put the yellow, the Daffodil Delight umbrella up there. And I'll put this one here. So this is how I did it when I decided where I would put my sand accents. So let's do some crumb cake. And I'm gonna get the stamps out. Okay. And I think I'm going to put those, I might put these shells a little bit higher this time, but this is generally where I'm aiming for, right here. I'm going to move these around so that I can stamp just underneath. Okay, so I want to put a little bit of sand just around the edge of my umbrella here. So let's ink this up. And I'm going to move that and then put my stamp on. Okay, so my umbrella is going to go back there. We'll do this. I'm going to turn the, I turned the image around so I can get a different perspective of it. I'm going to grab my scrap paper so I can stamp off the edge. Although I think I'm going to put the seashells a little higher perhaps. And then I'm going to put a little bit along the edge of the water here. Okay. Got a little seashell here. Let's put him on. Okay. I'm going to turn him sideways. Okay. And we've got one more set of seashells to work with. Oops, I can't seem to get that off. There we go. Let's use this one. Okay. So before I put on my umbrellas, I'm going to remember I have to stamp that little seagull. I'm going to hide him behind there. He's going to peek out. So let's get some white scrap and get the seagull out. So do you remember this set? I think he's really cute. Got some French fries in his mouth. I'm going to stamp him in Memento Black, and then we'll color him in with some blends. So because I just stamped this, normally I would leave this for a couple minutes just to make sure that the ink is dry before I start blending it. But because I am going to color right away, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to use my, my heat gun to make sure it's fully dry before I start blending, okay? So just going to be a little bit noisy. Hang on a sec. I'm going to use gray. This is Smoky Slate, I believe. Yeah, Smoky Slate. So I'm going to use the dark for the stripe on his wings. And then the light Smoky Slate for the rest of his wings. And when I'm coloring, I try not to color too much on the Memento ink anyways, because I have found that if I color over top of them too much, they do start to bleed. And just very lightly coloring. I'm not going over them too much because I don't want to cause bleeding. And then I'm very careful not to cover that French fry. Okay. I'm going to take some Daffodil Delight to do the French fry. This is the dark Daffodil Delight. It's really, really skinny here. Actually, you know what? I did dark Daffodil Delight for his beak, and then I did light Daffodil Delight for the French fries. And we can do his feet, although I'm pretty sure you're not going to see his feet in this picture. Okay. There we go. All right. So now that he's colored in, we can fussy cut him. I know, Sandra, your favorite. I'm just going to trim off this edge so that I don't have to hold on to so much paper. But I'm not going to cut it down too small. Okay, so I did leave something to hang on to because I did find that when I cut it right down to the image that there was nothing left for me to hold on to. Okay, so let's just quickly fussy cut. And really, the bottom is not going to show. He's going to be mostly hidden by the umbrella, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's really just the wings and his head that are sticking out. Okay, who in the chat has this set? Who else got this set when it was a Celebration freebie? I think it was a pretty popular one. I'm pretty sure at least one of my teammates got it. Sandra, I cannot pre-stamp for you and pre-cut. However, as a in-class perk, I can pre-cut. I can cut for you afterwards. How about that? We'll compromise. But like I said, if you don't want to use him, that is totally fine. You can just leave him out. Okay, I knew Tara would probably have him. Okay, here we go, nearly done. Like I said, the bottom part is not even going to be seen, so really you don't have to stress too much about fussy cutting this bottom part because it's not actually going to be seen. You could probably cut off his legs, but I could not bring myself to do it. I'm sorry. I knew that I didn't need his legs for this, but I could not bring myself to cut off his legs. Oh, okay, Sandra, so you have him too. All right, so you can do this at home on your own. Okay, so let's put these on. I'm going to make it flat because it is a lot of layers of cardstock. Plus, this is up on a dimensional. So I just don't want it to be too raised so that when it goes through the mail, you may get charged for extra shipping when it's really thick. So I'm just going to put these flat. But because there's like 2 layers of cardstock here, and the umbrella ends up kind of tilted on an angle, which, I mean, actually maybe that's what you want. I don't know. That could be the way you want it to look. I'm just going to put not dimensionals. I'm going to put glue dots on the back here to raise it up just a little bit so it's not such a big gap. Like I'll show you here, right? Can you see that? There's quite a bit of a gap here because of the layers of cardstock. So I'm just kind of looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, along this bottom section here is where I'm going to put some glue dots here, okay? Because it is below the wave line there, okay? Okay, so my glue dots here. I'm just, I kind of scratch along it or like rub my nail along there to help the glue dots stick to the paper so that when I lift up my paper, the backing that is, it sticks to the paper and it's easy to remove. Okay, so now I've got my glue dots set up there and I'm going to put some glue on top here to make sure that the top of my umbrella doesn't lift from the page. I'm just looking for my tweezers. Oh, here they are. Okay, so keeping in mind and make sure, oh, before I do that, that the fold is at the top, right? Your fold, my fold is here, so just make sure that it's at the top so it opens up correctly. And let me just grab hold of this again. Okay, so it's going to open up a little bit on an angle, but that's the way I wanted the points of the umbrella to face. So, you know, it's kind of a more of a fun card. I don't think it needs to open straight up and down. I think that's okay. So this one will lie straight on the beach. So I am going to just glue it on. Okay. And just notice that I am not putting glue where the crease marks are. Some of them, I think the being the back, the second layer of cardstock, it didn't quite cut through. So, but there's a chance. I think that one cut through. There's one or two of them that cut through. So you don't want your glue seeping out between where there are cut lines. So I'm just being careful not to go over those cut lines. Okay, and again, I'm just going to make sure that my fold is at the top before I put it down on my sand. Okay. Oh, I forgot to put my bird down. Good thing this is glue. And this is reality crafting. So, well, now that I can see where that is, where my umbrella will be, I'm just going to angle him kind of sticking out like this, right? But if you don't have your glue down yet, you don't know where it's going to be, you can either glue, actually, you know what? I could just glue him right to the back of my umbrella first, and that way I know I'll get the right angle. Oops. And then I'll just put more glue on the back. So let's do that. So here's my top, and he's going to stick out at an angle like this. Let's see, perhaps like this. Okay, so let's stick him on the back there. Okay, so now he's stuck on, and I can just put some more glue on the back and we can put that down. Good thing that was glue, because now I can, I was able to just quickly pick it up. And I can put glue on the back of my bird so he stays down. Okay, so there we go. All right, so I did also put the happy birthday inside, if you remember, just on fun angles, because my birthday is actually very long, and I really wanted to use the same script from the same set. So the birthday kind of fits in at an angle. You can put it in whatever way you want. Let's stamp that and cut it out. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see if this one fits. Grabbing my Pacific Point. Oh, that's a good question, Janice. You're asking if the Seaside Bay bird would work. Let me grab that after I'm done stamping this. Okay. Okay, it doesn't quite fit here, but I'm going to angle it so that I can fussy cut it afterwards. Okay. Okay, let me grab a Seaside Bay. I have it out somewhere. Just gotta find it. Not there. Okay, here's the Seaside Bay. You know what? You could probably put a sandpiper behind there. I think there, yeah, you know what? You could probably even stamp the sandpiper right behind there. Yeah, the little sandpipers will probably work. Okay. Okay, fussy cutting again. I know, Sandra, you don't love this, but you know what? If you have a different happy birthday that you can use, or a different sentiment, whatever, you can mix and match. You can just cut. I was originally actually intending to try a sentiment that I could cut in a strip and just stick it inside, so it would have to be a smaller one. And then you wouldn't have to fussy cut, but I just found that for this one, because it is big, that I could not fit a strip, a rectangular strip of paper here and hide it properly. So only if I fussy cut it, like see, you can see the very, very edge of the bee sticking out, but it's not much, that you can hide the full word here. Okay, so let's go ahead and fussy cut this. Yeah, if you have a smaller happy birthday sentiment, you can fit it in on a rectangle rather than fussy cutting it. You could try, yes, you could definitely stamp it inside. And I did try stamping it afterwards, and they stamped fine. I just didn't personally love the look of the creases, or the what do you call it? The die cut edges inside across my letters. So that's just a personal preference. If that works for you, then you can avoid fussy cutting. This one is a little bit trickier with all the cursive letters, but I think it looks better when you fussy cut it. So I'm separating my sentiments here. Forgot to cut them apart, but here we go. There we go. There's the happy. I'm just going to cut this a little bit skinnier because I know that it's going to be sitting just outside of the umbrella otherwise. I find this particularly challenging because I don't have a lot to hold on to, and I like to turn the paper with my left hand as I cut, rather than doing all the maneuvering with the scissors. I use my left hand to turn the paper to cut, but it's a little harder when you don't have much to hold on to. All right, I'm just going to trim that little pointy end around it. Okay, let's clear that off. And we're going to put the, I'm just double checking that the birthday will fit inside. Oops. And because it's more of a fun card, I'm not going to bother, you know, making it straight, right? So I'm just trying to find an angle where birthday will not stick out. Okay, I think this angle probably works. Okay, so let's put some glue on that. Yeah, you can definitely try it and see if you're happy with the results. It's totally up to you. I did stamp after I die cut, and the stamping worked fine. It's not that I was missing any sections inside the cut lines or anything. I just didn't love the look of it, that's all. Okay, let's put our birthday on here. And again, I just don't want it to stick out too much. I'm just going to close that to see. It's not quite the right angle. Let's tilt it a little bit this way so not so much of the blue is sticking out. Okay, not too bad. I think I may have even trimmed off a little of the Y. Maybe that's why it didn't stick out as much. Okay, good enough. And then we'll put the happy on. Okay, so that is most of the card already. Okay, so my slight change this time is to mount this onto a Daffodil Delight mat. I was originally thinking I would cut down this to be smaller so that I had the same white amount of white showing around the edge, but I think it would have been too much to cut it down. It would have involved more trimming along the sides, etc. And I wasn't sure if I would lose too much space for stamping my sentiment on the top. So I decided just to add the mat, but I think it might be a little bit, I'm not sure how it's going to look. So let's see. Okay. All right. So there's my card base. And we're going to take a look and see if this looks okay. So this piece of Daffodil Delight is cut just 1/8 of an inch bigger than my card mat here that I worked with. What do you think, ladies? Should I put it on the yellow? I think it adds a little bit more punch. I just wish there was a little bit more white around the edge of it, but I still think it looks good. Yeah, so I think I'm going to go ahead with that. Okay, I think it gives a little bit more impact. Oh, I got a thumbs up from Tara on this. Yeah, I just wish there was a little bit more white space around the edge of it, but just given the dimensions and what I wanted to be able to show you today, I thought I would stick with the original size of my scene. It was a bit easier because otherwise I'd have to trim down my waves on the side, and again, I wasn't sure if I would be losing too much white space for my sentiment. Okay, so I'm angling at 45 degrees so that I can figure out my spacing before I put it down completely. And I usually have to push it over a little bit when I'm done. And I'm working with only like an 1/8 or a 16th, more like a 16th of an inch. I can't remember now. So, okay. And we will glue this on as well. Yeah, I agree, Tara. I thought when I made this card I needed something, but that was after I was done putting it together, and I didn't know if I wanted to add the daffodil, but I thought I would add it for my live, and we can compare. And it definitely, I think it definitely looks good with the extra pop. Because I had debated blue and, you know, debated whether or not that would be good, but look, I think it looks good. I think both look good, but this one definitely has more of a impact. So that is today's card. You can play around with the colors, but I do like these retired colors together. Like I said, it's Daffodil Delight, which is not retired, and Pacific Point and Tahitian Tide. They look great. I think they look good, and I like these little umbrellas that I made. All right. Yes, Tahitian Tide could work too, but we are out of time, and we will go with the Daffodil Delight. I think actually it works well with the sun being in the corner here. It just kind of works with the sun being there. Okay, so that is the first card in my Rolling Waves card series, and hope you guys are inspired and have fun with that. And I will see you next week with card number 2. Have a great week. Bye, everybody.